What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Optimus Fantasy Week 4 Waiver Wire Show here on the Optimus Fantasy YouTube channel. Real quick reminder before we get going, please make sure if you are here to like this video and subscribe to the channel as we are going all week to get you ready for the fantasy football action. I'm Nate Palva, joined by my co-host, the one and only Mr. Evan Sather. Evan, as we are approaching this Monday Night Football game, how are you feeling about your squads with all these injuries heading into week 4?
So far, so good. I can at least say that much. I just need to hold off my dynasty opponent in a close matchup. He's got Amon-Ra and Zay Flowers left to go, and I just have Sam Laporta, so we're going to see how that turns out. I've got at least a 27-point lead, so it could happen. I could get the dub after that. You're on mute, my man.
As I like to say, anything is possible when it comes to fantasy, Evan, and I don't have a lot of hope unless Laporta goes off tonight. We've got in the chat, Laporta Tutty, no worries today. Let's hope. I could really use one as well. This has been a brutal week, Evan, as we're going into the waiver wire section of the week, heading into week 4 as we finish up Monday Night Football. We lost CeeDee Lamb. We lost Najee Harris to an Achilles. We're already down Jaden Daniels. We're already down Brock Purdy this week. We're already down J.J. McCarthy. We're already down Joe Burrow. It's been really difficult to navigate this. Did your teams make it through mostly unscathed this weekend?
For the most part, yes. I'm in 3 leagues that I care about, and yes, they ended up pretty much unscathed. I already dropped Najee Harris for Bashal Tutin in 1 league, so I'm not worried. Thank goodness I avoided most of these injuries that came up for the offensive players. I'm gonna be okay. At least that's what I keep telling myself. And Brock Purdy might be coming back soon, as Mac Jones has a knee issue. So They might not have to roll out Adrian Martinez on the 49ers.
Well, let's hope they don't. That's not good for any of their assets, especially Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey. Actually, probably not bad for, but I'd rather have Brock Purdy back. I'd rather be done with the Mac Jones experiment. He looked okay, not super efficient. Then he got hurt as well, so that definitely affected it. Now, before we get into all the waiver wire players we want to talk about tonight, we've got this question in the chat. Let's get this before we get going here, Evan. Hey guys, what do you think about Calvin Ridley? Would you drop Ridley for Elic Aomanor? Also has Diggs and Judy on his roster. What are you doing here, Evan? Do you think Calvin Ridley is worth dropping for Elic Aomanor?
I would not drop Calvin Ridley for Elic Aomanor because Calvin Ridley is still the veteran top wide receiver in the offense. Because Cam Ward has at least proven that he wants to support 2 wide receivers in the form of Ridley and Aomanor. So that doesn't mean drop one for the other. I mean, it's like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, except on a much lesser scale. Now, that being said, you also have Stephon Diggs. You also have Jerry Jeudy. I don't believe either of them are strong drops either, despite the fact that the Browns offense sucks and the Patriots offense is going to be very frustrating all year because it's just not very good either. If you really, really need to go get Aomanor, which I don't really... He's not a must-add, in my opinion, if you're already good at wide receiver, because he's still the number 2 wide receiver in that offense, then I think you're fine passing over Aomanor. I mean, Jason, unless you have anybody else that's worth dropping, let us know. We'll try to help you out with that, but as of right now, no, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you as of right now. However, they're only separated by 3 targets right now through 3 games. There's a part of me that thinks that Aomanor is going to creep up and pass Ridley. Part of that is because I have some bias against Ridley. I just don't think he's as good as a lot of people make him out to be. I don't think he's wide receiver 1 quality. That said, right now, there's no way I'm dropping Ridley to pick up Aomanor. Like Evan said, if you've got other parts and pieces on this roster and you've got questions about maybe dropping one of them, let us know. We'll get to that as soon as we can. But, Evan, it is time to move on to this week's waiver wire players. We're going to start at predictably thin quarterback, given all of the injuries that we've had. The first one I want to talk about, your Chicago Bears signal caller, the one and only Caleb Williams. He is looking considerably better. I think there's something to this Ben Johnson system with him, Evan. Last night, 37 fantasy points, 19 to 28, 298 yards, 4 touchdowns without a single blemish. At this point now, I mean, it's not that he's under rostered, 71% on Sleeper, 80% on ESPN, but he's not 100%, which is why I wanted to talk about him here. I think it's important that if he's available in your league, this is a guy you need to spend up to get right now.
100%. He's sitting at QB2 in your typical redraft PPR leagues, and I think he will stay in the top 10 for the rest of the season as well, because, assuming that this pace keeps up. I don't necessarily think 4 touchdown passes are coming every single game, because they're not going to be facing weak defenses like the Cowboys have been for the last couple of years, and now that they are now stuck with Matt Eberflus as their defensive coordinator to make them way worse than they actually are, yeah, they're going to be giving up a lot more to Green Bay next week as well. Caleb Williams will be facing the Las Vegas Raiders next week, which they also have a really weak secondary. They got Max Crosby up there, and I forgot the name of the rookie that they also have up there too that's pretty good at stopping the run, which the Bears are not exactly leaning on running the football anymore, being that they got DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai to just take some carries whenever it's appropriate. So, Nate, remember that one whole drive where the Bears just ran the ball down the Cowboys' throats just to mess with them, and it worked to kill a lot of the clock in the third quarter?
Yeah, and to your point, the Bears aren't a running team, but they were able to do it against a really weak Dallas Cowboys defense. They've got Vegas and they've got the bye. Then they've got Washington and New Orleans. Week 8 scares me a little bit, Evan, because they're in Baltimore, but then Cincinnati, the New York Giants, Minnesota's not great. Week 12 is Pittsburgh, Philly, Green Bay. You get into the fantasy playoffs, though. Cleveland, Green Bay is not great, but the fantasy championship is at San Francisco, and this defense is limping. Bosa's done for the season. Caleb Williams right now for me he's a guy I want to add long-term, because I think when it comes fantasy playoff time for that push to get into the playoffs, he has some really good matchups, and this is a point where this offense is going to be gelling really hard. Rome Odunze should be full bloom. I'm really excited about what this team can be. He's a guy I would prioritize at quarterback if he's available in your league.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be upfront, too. This isn't just bias as a Bears fan. I am not worried at all for Caleb Williams' fantasy matchups against the rest of this season. Raiders have a bad secondary. They got the Week 5 bye. Washington has a bad secondary. The Saints have a bad secondary. I don't even like Baltimore's secondary. I think they're going to get shredded by Detroit later this evening or coming up in a few minutes. Cincinnati doesn't have a secondary. Minnesota's secondary is not even good. Pittsburgh's secondary has some names, but I'm not even that worried about them. They're very beatable. Philadelphia might be the closest one I'm worried about, but I don't know what everybody is going to look like by week 13, where that's just going to be where the season changes. I'm not even worried about the Packers secondary. I'm more worried about their front. Cleveland secondary, well, anyway, I don't want to keep going on and on, but that just reinforces my point that Caleb Williams is a must-add at quarterback if you are struggling there, or if you want to eventually just trade away the guy that you got starting right now, like Geno Smith, for example. I mean, granted, he's probably more of a drop, but we're going to get to those guys in a minute here. But yeah, Caleb Williams, must-add. This Ben Johnson system is only going to get better from here. Go get him.
Well, and look, if it makes anyone else feel better, I'm a known Bears hater. I've hated this system for years. I've hated what this team has done. And not because I hate the people of Chicago or I hate the Bears in general. I just haven't liked what this team has been. This is a different team. It's a different feel. I'm all in on Caleb Williams right now. Another quarterback, though, Evan, that I am all in-ish on, Matthew Stafford is a QB2. I wrote about him in our waiver wire article, which you can find on optimusfantasy.com right now with all the positions covered, everything you need here. A little bump to what we're doing tonight. But Stafford's QB 15 right now. He's got good parts and pieces. We know this. Kyron Williams, Blake Corum is starting to take a step up. We talked about him last week. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. These are very talented pieces around him. And yes, you feel like he's being wheelchaired into these games because he's so beaten up. He had the back issues earlier in the season. But with this team and this offensive line, it doesn't seem to matter nearly as much. He had 196 yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday. Not his best performance against a good Philly defense, They've got Indy, San Francisco, Jacksonville, New Orleans, San Francisco again, Seattle. These are easy defenses for this offense to beat up on. Matthew Stafford is not just a streaming option to patch you up if you're missing Brock Purdy or Jaden Daniels or one of these other quarterbacks. I think he's a guy you can plug in long-term in 2 quarterback leagues.
Yeah, and Stafford is not going to see a lot of games anymore in which he's scoring more than 20 fantasy points. Those days are unfortunately over for Matthew Stafford, but there's always that potential if he can throw more than 2 touchdown passes. Unfortunately, the age and injuries, like we were just talking about, that's going to lead to some interceptions here and there. It's just going to happen. Everybody throws picks in the NFL. He's not taking that many sacks. He doesn't have to rush that much, and thank goodness, because he always loses yardage, so that's at least a good thing for him. But yeah, Matthew Stafford at this stage in his career is a mid-level quarterback 2 that you absolutely would rather play compared to like a Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Michael Penix. That's a bit of a spoiler alert in case you haven't seen our waiver wire week 4 article on OptimusFantasy.com. Check that out after the show. Yeah, Matthew Stafford is only 30% owned in Sleeper at the moment. Nate, I see that you're recommending 15 to 20% of your fab. If you have to go get him, yeah, go ahead and pay up for that. But otherwise, you really don't need to pay up in your typical 1 quarterback leagues. But in 2 quarterback leagues, yeah, go ahead and pay up.
Well, and in 1 quarterback leagues, the caveat here is if everyone else is off of the waiver wire and you're afraid Jaden Daniels is going to play next week, you think Brock Purdy's still a couple weeks out, you weren't able to get Jake Browning when Joe Burrow went down, Stafford's someone you can get. He's better than the other options on the wire. Specifically, one that I put on here that I want to talk about, Tua Tagovailoa. Is there any world in which, Evan, you would advocate for adding Tua on waivers this week?
So Tua is currently sitting at QB 22. He is no longer a dependable option. He's not going to lose you your weeks, but he's not going to win you your weeks either. Unfortunately, with the state of this Dolphins team and how just flat out bad the Dolphins have been this year on all sides of the football, but the offense is what we care about right now. Unfortunately, he's going to be giving more underwhelming performances until the Dolphins change up anybody in this coaching staff. In my opinion, they have to get rid of Mike Macdonald at this point. He has lost this locker room since last year. It carried over into this season. Tua Tagovailoa he's got decent weapons that can make the Dolphins a decent AFC contender, but Tyreek Hill is not performing up to speed. Jalen Waddle is getting robbed of way better usage. I mean, he's at least seeing double-digit fantasy points because of falling into the end zone. Darren Waller's still not ready. He's still hurting. He's still trying to come back in the NFL, and they're having to just rely on Devon Achane's legs just to make the offense move forward. Like, the passing game sucks. So, that being said, Tua Tagovailoa, I don't recommend as a must-add as a QB2. If you have him this year because you drafted him in a 2-quarterback league or Superflex, I'm sorry. You're going to be stuck holding that bag for a while. It's not going to get easier for this Dolphins team.
Well, I just dropped Tua. I'd rather have Matthew Stafford. I'd rather have Caleb Williams if he's available. I'd even rather have our next guy, and we'll be real brief with this, Geno Smith. He's only rostered in 23% of sleeper leagues, 10% of ESPN leagues. I like him, Evan. I do. I think there's some value to him in 2 QB leagues. 32 points last week against Washington. It took a lot of Trey Tucker for him to get there, which we'll get to him later. I think he's an okay add in 2 QB leagues. If you're really hurting in 1 QB leagues, I'd probably go after someone like Trevor Lawrence, who's still in the 30% rostership range. But Geno Smith in a pinch, I'm okay with it, but I wouldn't advocate really spending much fab.
Yeah, I don't think Geno Smith is a strong add either if you need a second quarterback. I'll be honest with you, too. I would rather have Geno Smith over all of the other QB2s that we talked about so far, which includes Stafford. As weird as that sounds, The Raiders, I expect to play from behind a lot, just like they did with the Commanders. And when that happens, that means that Geno Smith will be aided by garbage time, which is exactly what happened against the Commanders. So, yeah, it took 3 touchdown passes to Trey Tucker to get it done. But the point is that he got it done. He's not taking a bunch of rushing attempts, which may cap some upside if you're looking for that. And he's taking some sacks, of course, because the Raiders' offensive line is garbage. So, unfortunately, adding Pete Carroll and adding Chip Kelly is not going to be enough to turn around this bad offensive talent that the Raiders have. And that's not to say anything negative about guys like Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. It's just that they got a clean house with a lot more than just those guys. And it's going to take a while for a brand new system to kick in. It's just like what the Chicago Bears have with Ben Johnson. You got to give it some time to kick in. And in the Raiders' case, they just need more talent. Like, they didn't do what Ryan Poles did for the Bears and add a bunch of great guys for their offense. It's going to be a few years for them. But that being said, yeah, Geno Smith is not a guy that I'm looking forward to even considering starting against the Chicago Bears, despite the fact that the Bears defense is also trying to get acquainted with Dennis Allen's system, and they're struggling with that too. But if you're in a pinch, yeah, you could pick up Geno Smith, but I would never recommend starting him.
I mean, an emergency start, sure. And I think there will be some boom weeks for him. Not against Chicago. Tennessee probably is a good week to start him. Jacksonville at home in week 9 would be a week I'd start him. I'd probably start him week 11 against Dallas. No way I'd roll him out against Cleveland. And then week 17, fantasy championship, injury happens. You've got him on your bench. You could start him there. Not an alpha matchup against the Giants. But otherwise, I mean, he's not someone I want to pick up long-term. I would definitely not hold on to him. We're going to move on to running backs now because I'm tired of these mid quarterbacks we're talking about. It's ugly. So now we're going to talk. Now we're going to talk about some even more mid running backs. Evan, let's get this one out of the way. Miles Sanders flashes a little bit. I mean, he's still Miles Sanders. I'm not going to get excited about it. 9 carries for 41 yards. He had a touchdown last week. He saw 3 targets against Chicago. Is there any part of you that thinks that Miles Sanders could be valuable at some point this season should Javonte Williams start to fall? And if so, does that make him worth like a back-end roster ad right now on the waiver wire if you're not hurting for a running back?
This is a serious question, is it?
Well, here's the thing.
Oh, wait, you were serious. Hold on.
I'm serious.
Let me laugh even harder. Miles Sanders. That's a good one. Seriously, if you're adding Miles Sanders at this point in the season, don't give up. You can do better than that on the waiver wire. Miles Sanders, unfortunately, was a beneficiary of game script because they were playing from very far behind the Chicago Bears in the second half. They had to stop giving Javonte Williams some carries just because they couldn't keep running the football and expecting it to... I mean, listen, Javonte was gashing up the Bears' run defense, don't get me wrong, but they couldn't just keep running the football when they had to hurry up and start throwing the football to catch up on the scoreboard because the Cowboys' defense was even worse. So... on top of that, Javonte Williams lost a fumble, so they wanted to give Miles Sanders a little more work too because he didn't. But no, you do not need to add Miles Sanders unless you're in a super duper deep league in which you have to absolutely roster him because he is putting up 9 and 8 fantasy points over the last couple of weeks. I mean, 9.9 fantasy points in PPR against a crappy New York Giants team on 22% of the snaps. Sure. That's not a must add on the bench. He has yet to see more than 40% of the snaps, and no, you don't need to add Miles Sanders.
All right. You said what I was going to say anyway. I just let you say it. You put a little more pizzazz to it, Evan. And I love that about you. I know. All right. Let's talk about Trey Benson. This is a little different because James Conner's done for the season. Trey Benson is now the guy. 60% rostered in sleeper, 54.8% on ESPN. Doesn't meet our usual criteria for a guy we're going to talk about, but this situation is different with Conner down. This isn't going to be cheap, but Trey Benson at this point, if you had James Conner or you're trying to block the James Conner manager in your league, you're going to have to spend up on Trey Benson.
Yes, if Trey Benson happens to be available on your waiver wire, then yeah, you're going to have to empty the bank for him. Whatever you have left in Fab, go ahead and empty it out for Trey Benson because he's going to be the lead in whatever running backs the Cardinals have left in their mediocre offense. What they have left is Trey Benson, Emari Demercado, and Bam Knight, who has yet to suit up. I don't even know who Bam Knight is, but he happens to be on the roster still. He's playing some special teams. He's probably going to be the third running back in whatever carries they want to give him. But anyway, Trey Benson is a guy you're going to have to empty the rest of your fab out to go get. He took 61% of the snaps after Connor went out. 10 carries, 42 yards, 3 of 4 targets, and a close loss to the 49ers that Kyler Murray basically lost them that game when he took the safety by going backwards. Freaking idiot. But yeah, Trey Benson is safe to lead the backfield. I don't see the Cardinals signing anybody like a Gus Edwards to add to their backfield. So, like I said, empty that fab. Go ahead, go get Trey Benson because he should be good for some RB2 value.
Oh, he 100% should be. I can't believe you missed Bam Knight week back in 2023. Or was it 2000? No, I take that back. It was 2022 with the Jets. Bam Knight, 85 carries for 300 yards. There were a lot of people who advocated that he was the next big thing in New York back then. So, but today he's been inactive all season. He might be active, but this is Trey Benson's backfield at this point. And with the way this offense runs, they're going to need Trey Benson to be a high volume guy. I 1000% think he's someone that you have to add if he's available in your league. He should not be available come Wednesday morning.
I just recognized Bam Knight. They just renamed him in Sleeper. I didn't realize that was Zonovan Knight. I remember that guy in the Jets now. Screw you, Sleeper. You tricked me this time.
Oh man, I remember him being. It was Zonovan and it was Bam. I loved Bam. It stuck with me. Great nickname. Now let's talk a little bit about Ollie Gordon here. We were poo-pooing Gordon as a waiver ad recently. 2 weeks ago, last week, he'd only had 3 carries through the first 2 games. However, he gets 9 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown at Buffalo in a blowout loss. Is Ollie Gordon a guy you're looking to add this week? Because I have questions. I don't know that we're going to. It was a blowout loss. They gave Ollie Gordon some work. He's the bigger guy. He probably will get some goal line work. I don't see it being a long-term thing where he's worth adding right now. Do you, Evan?
No, I do not believe Ollie Gordon is a must-add at this time on your fantasy football teams. He was getting some garbage time. He got 25% of the snaps just like he did in week 1. He happened to fall into the end zone, 9 carries for 38 yards. He was efficient against a inconsistent Bills rush defense. I mean, we could even have Lou talk about this, how the Bills have always struggled to stop the run. Now that being said, Devon Achane is still the man in this backfield. He got 77% of the snaps. They only gave him 12 carries, and that's for a similar reason as Javonte Williams on the Cowboys, because they were playing from behind and they had to catch up and start unloading the pass to try and catch up to the Bills on the scoreboard. So no, I don't believe Ollie Gordon is a strong add at this time. Somebody else on your waiver wire is probably going to go get him though, just because he fell into the end zone. If they want to overpay for him on Fab, go ahead and let him. There's other options, hopefully, on your team that are going to be better long-term, being that the Dolphins' offense sucks.
Yeah. Is Jeremy McNichols over in Washington? Is he a better long-term ad now? Austin Eckler done for the season with, again, another Achilles injury. 4 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown, of course, aided by that 70-plus yard touchdown run. Is Jeremy McNichols someone you would consider adding right now?
Only if your waiver wire is completely out of running backs and there's nobody left to add, go ahead and add McNichols. But outside of that, if you're not hurting at running back, do not bother adding any Washington Commanders running backs. This is going to be a committee. It is going to be ugly. They drafted Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt specifically to play a Brian Robinson-style role where he's a platoon back. He's only going to be taking certain situations where they want him. It's probably not going to be a heavy in the passing game. Chris Rodriguez is another bruiser. McNichols can kind of catch passes, but honestly, I don't really like any of the three running backs they have in the passing game. I don't know what the Commanders expect to do with no Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota to play similarly, where he's just going to roll out and scramble as well. So that's just going to cap the upside for all three of these running backs. So, no, Jeremy McNichols is not a must-add. He's the type of guy that tricks a lot of people on the waiver wire every week because he falls into the end zone and then scoring a touchdown must mean must add. I must add him right now. No, do not do it. He's fool's gold.
Yeah, he's 100% fool's gold. Last one I want to touch on, Evan Bashal Tootin. Second week in a row with a touchdown. Fool's gold, or is he someone you should be looking to add right now?
I still do not say Bashal Tootin is a must-add unless he's somehow still on your waiver wire in a deep-ish league. 61% rostered in sleeper redraft leagues. He's not seeing more than 25% of the snaps. He actually got less work against the Texans compared to the week before against the Bengals. 6 carries for 21 yards. He was not efficient on the ground, but he happened to fall in the end zone, so people are salivating over him because he's a rookie running back. This is still Travis Etienne's backfield. I do not want to hear otherwise that it's going to be the Tootin show yet. The Jacksonville Jaguars also did not play well once again. They're just another bad football team that happened to get the dub over a Texans team that's also struggling to figure out their identity with DeMeco Ryans. Trevor Lawrence was bad against the Texans despite getting the win. That whole offense was bad. But Travis Etienne still went 16 for 56 and he fell in the end zone. Anyway, back to Bashal Tootin. No, I'm not ready to be tooting his horn. Leave him on waivers and let somebody else overpay for him.
All right, well, with that wonderful quip, we're going to move on to wide receivers. This was an interesting week in Seattle with Torrey Horton. Of course, he got the kick return for a touchdown, but Mr. Horton also added a touchdown for the second week in a row, a receiving touchdown. The rookie out of my own Colorado State, and by my own, I mean it's right up the road from me. 8 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's got 5 catches and a touchdown in each contest. Do you think, because I do, that this is going to be an ongoing thing with Torrey Horton? I feel like he's earned a spot in this offense. He's caught 5 of his 8 targets. That's efficient enough. 10.67 yards per catch last week, 16 the week before. And again, he's shown that he's reliable in the red zone for Sam Darnold. Is this a guy you think is worth a minimal fab bid moving forward at wide receiver? Because I feel like he's flexible most weeks right now in the Seattle offense.
Yes. So Torrey Horton is 8% rostered in sleeper redraft leagues. This touchdown and the special teams touchdown, he's got 2 of them in this game against the Saints. So that's going to mean that you're going to have to pay up quite a bit if you really want to get Horton on your roster. But that being said, I'm not dying to spend more than probably 8% of my fab on somebody like a Torrey Horton because he doesn't see more than 50% of the offensive snaps for this team. They're still slowly working him in. He's playing a mostly special teams punt return role for this Seattle Seahawks team. He's sharing a lot of snaps with Cooper Kupp. I don't believe that Torrey Horton is somebody that you're dropping a lot of fab on to go get if you need a wide receiver. Like I said, don't spend more than about 8% on him. If somebody wants to drop like 35%, yeah, just let him. You'll find somebody else on the waiver wire that will that somebody else will come along. You don't have to worry if you miss out on him. So yeah, Horton is a minimal ad for me.
I in deeper leagues, or if I have a bench spot and I'm just looking for someone to see what they do in the coming weeks, Torrey Horton's the guy I'm really looking at. I think there's potential there, and you're right, it's not 100% there, still 50% snap share. Cooper Kupp is still taking up targets, but I can see an instance where Cooper Kupp gets hurt, because it tends to happen, especially as he's 32, getting later in his career, where Horton all of a sudden gets a larger target share and a larger snap share. And if he does, if you have the room, this is time to get him for cheap and not have to pay up for him later should you need a wide receiver. And maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But this is one of those prospecting things for me. If you have the room, go get Torrey Horton. How are you feeling about Trey Tucker, Evan? He had a blow-up game. He had the 3 touchdowns. He had something like 140 yards receiving in a loss, 145 yards, caught 8 of 9 targets. Is there any way that Trey Tucker commands even remotely close to this volume again at any point this season? Obviously, the 3 touchdowns is an outlier. There's no one who's going to expect that kind of production or the 40 fantasy points you put up in PPR. But is he someone you need to look at as a potential like wide receiver 3 flex moving forward in this offense?
Trey Tucker has always had that value in the first place, even when he was just starting out on the Raiders. I mean, he finishes the wide receiver 88 in his rookie year 2 years ago. He was the wide receiver 58 last year. So you were already rostering Trey Tucker in deeper leagues where you're starting 3 wide receivers or you just have deep benches. So this is not that much of a surprise from a Trey Tucker that likes to go deep and catch the deep ball. He's a deep threat specialist. Trey Tucker is, by the way, if you guys are watching this show after the live broadcast and you're watching this after it's been published on YouTube, you're watching the replay, please comment down below how much fab somebody wasted on Trey Tucker in your league, because I'm dying to hear how many people drop like 75%, 80% of their fab just to go get Trey Tucker, thinking that he's going to repeat that performance like he did against the Commanders again. So, being that this was done mostly in garbage time, no, I am not expecting Trey Tucker to produce like that every week. I mean, he's lucky to get 3 catches for 50-something yards, which is barely good enough for double-digit fantasy points if he doesn't fall in the end zone. So, yeah, no, I'm out on Trey Tucker for anything more than about 7-8% of your fab.
Okay, now Elic Aomanor, we already talked about a little bit. So I want to know, if you are looking for a receiver, you're looking to bolster your depth, how much fab are you okay spending on Elic Aomanor?
I don't want to go too crazy with Aomanor, but being that he's already 50% rostered in sleeper redraft leagues, I think you're going to have to pay up in the double digits to get him at this point, because falling in the end zone 2 weeks in a row is a strong case, but he's also getting 70-ish% of the snaps. He's the clear wide receiver 2 in this offense. Like what we were saying earlier about Cam Ward, is that what we were talking about Calvin Ridley as well, is that he is the trusted wide receiver 2, and Cam Ward is trying to get 2 wide receivers involved in this offense, and that happens to be Aomanor on the opposite side of Ridley. That being said, he is a touchdown-dependent option to reach double digits, being that he hasn't had more games than 4 catches. He's got 4 catches at most in a game so far this season. Can he do better? Yeah. I mean, when he comes up against the Raiders in week 6, or maybe even the Patriots in week 7, maybe even the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 13, I could see him having some blow-up games in which he's, touching upon flirting with double-digit receptions, but we're not even there yet. He's playing against the Houston Texans, who have a decent secondary next week, the Arizona Cardinals, who have a okay secondary in weeks 5, and then the Raiders on week 6. So, yeah, Aomanor, I don't want to spend more than about 15% of my fab, and I think that's being a little generous considering how he's not getting enough work to justify that.
Yeah, I do believe, like we talked about earlier, that I think that this is a growing relationship between him and Cam Ward, and there's a big part of me that wants to get in on the early side of that, so when they're really kind of gelling towards the back half of the season, I've already got him. I don't have to pay up. But that said, I'm not going to go crazy with it, because there's a chance that this doesn't continue to gel. Calvin Ridley could take over as a heavy wide receiver 1 in this offense and garner most of the volume or earn it. So, yeah, I'm with you. Not going crazy. You've got room on the back of your bench. Totally advocate going after Aomanor, but don't think he's going to save your season or your team. That's more than likely not the case.
No,
now,
nobody from the Titans are going to do that this year. Not even Tony Pollard. This is a really bad offense that's in rebuilding mode, and these guys are good enough for flex options. But outside of that, don't count on Tennessee Titans to help you win your weeks.
Yeah, don't ever start Cam Ward, no matter what. It doesn't matter. Luther Burden, 26% rostered on Sleeper. This is an interesting one because prior to last night, 3 targets, 2 catches. He was averaging roughly a 23% snap share over those first 2 games, barely over 2 fantasy points. Then last night, 3 targets, 3 catches, 101 yards, and the touchdown, of course, on the reverse flea flicker, that was fantastic. Thank you, Ben Johnson. That was beautiful. We all needed that after a long day of weird football. But I know that normally we look at these performances, we're like, oh, it was a one-off. This isn't going to happen again. Here's the thing with Luther Burden, though, is that I think they've been looking for an excuse to get him rolling in this offense, and I think they found it last night. And I don't think this stops. I think we start to see an increased workload for him. 29% target or snap share last night, which is the largest of the season so far. Now, I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to be fantasy relevant probably for the next 2 to 3 weeks, but I think we see an increased workload. I think we see increased targets. I think we see increased usage to a point where he becomes a 1B to Rome Odunze. I do believe we're really watching DJ Moore's value in this offense fade.
Now, that being said, that's how it appears right now for DJ Moore's stock in the Chicago Bears offense. And, 28 years old, 7 years in the league, DJ Moore is still in his prime. They were trying to get DJ Moore involved even in the run game. They were trying to use him similar to like a Deebo Samuel or a Jaden Reed. Like, they want to get him involved in different ways than he's been used before. And DJ Moore was not looking too bad rushing the football. He was getting like 4 yards per carry in some plays. Now, that being said, Caleb Williams finally found DJ Moore wide open in the back of the end zone later in the game in the second half, which got him that tutty. 4 catches on 5 targets for 21 yards. That's kind of low for a DJ Moore. That being said, I love me some Luther Burden, but I don't believe that Burden is going to be seeing a lot more volume for the rest of the season because this is a 3 wide receiver system that just, you can't support 3 wide receivers unless you're Tom Brady with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown a few years ago. That is rare as rare comes, and unfortunately, I would not go crazy adding Luther Burden in Fab. Deep leagues only right now. There's not enough justification to be spending your Fab in shallow leagues to go get a Luther Burden, and this is coming from a big Luther truther right here.
I'm a big Luther truther too, and I was before the draft. I liked the landing spot too. I think he's a good fit in this offense. I think he's a good fit with Ben Johnson. I think maybe
I was thrilled.
Oddly, yeah, and I think I'm a little bit higher on him the rest of the season than you are. Not that I'm saying that DJ Moore's dead. I don't think he's dead. I just don't think he's going to live up to his ADP. And he was being drafted as a back-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. I was thrilled when I was getting him later than that in drafts. Now I'm wishing that I had stayed off of him, except for those few where I got him later. But it's okay, because I think he's still valuable. You're still going to start DJ Moore. He had his best week of the season last week. 5 targets, 4 catches, but like you said, he got the touchdown. But I think there's room for Burden in this offense, especially looking at their running game. You've got Moningai, you've got Roshan Johnson, who's been hurt, and DeAndre Swift, who is not a between the tackles guy. He's more of an outside nuanced runner. So yeah, I can see the volume being there for Burden later in the season if this is a team that's even remotely competing.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Roshan Johnson, being that he was healthy enough to be active in week 2 and week 3, Roshan has been playing special teams. He has not taken any carries so far out of this backfield. I think the Bears coaching staff want to see if they can work him back in from the foot injury, but being that they spent that 7th round pick on Kyle Moningai, and they've been pretty happy with what he's offered so far behind DeAndre Swift, I don't think we're going to see much more of Roshan Johnson. Unfortunately, I think the Matt Eberflus system ruined Roshan. I don't think that he's going to be a Chicago Bear for much longer, but don't count on DJ Moore going away from the Bears either. He still has 2 years left on his contract before a potential out. They signed him to a 4-year, $110 million contract at the beginning of 2024. And that being said, there's a lot of money that is owed to DJ Moore that I don't think he's going to. The Bears just don't have a reason to try and renegotiate that contract. So outside of that, don't count on DJ Moore going away. I think he will heat up in this offense. I think he'll get involved more as the offense gets used to this new system. And like you were just saying, though, Nate, I think there's room for 3 wide receivers in this system. And Luther Burden, I'm not looking to get more than like 40% of the snaps unless an injury occurs.
Yeah, however, I just want to point out a couple of the guys we have on this list that I would rather have or Luther Burden over. Sterling Shepard, he popped a little bit yesterday. They needed him to pop yesterday. It was a weird win for Tampa Bay against the Jets. I don't see him being a factor in that offense on any regular basis where he's worth adding. Tyquan Thornton in Kansas City. There's no way I'm trusting a third to fourth option in that offense on any sort of regular basis. I know people are, oh, Tyquan Thornton had a touchdown. Yeah, he did. A lot of players get touchdowns. Juju Smith-Schuster had a couple of nice catch and runs. Are we going to talk about adding him? Absolutely not. Khalil Shakir's the other one. I know. Khalil Shakir's the other one. And it's not that I have anything against Khalil Shakir. It's not that I have anything against Buffalo. It's the simple fact of what we've been talking about since week one. We're not going to ever know who's going to be the wide receiver one in any given week. I got tricked by Keon Coleman a few weeks ago. My bad. Should have listened to Lou, but I didn't. I can't buy into Khalil Shakir. He's my favorite wide receiver in this offense. He's 75% rostered on most platforms. Hopefully you only need him as a flex, and don't go adding him if he's available in your leagues.
No, Keon Coleman is not somebody I'm rushing to add anymore. And yeah, we see you down there, Lou. Yeah, Keon, Isaiah, likely Coleman with the inconsistency, just like between Mark Andrews and likely on the Ravens. That being said, though, I still like Khalil Shakir, even if the game script is going to dictate that he's not going to be the leading receiver in any given week. But I'll tell you who I do want to add from that Bills. Well, I guess we'll get to him later once we get to tight ends. But Dalton Kincaid is my favorite pass catcher on that Bills offense. And I like to joke with Lou that the Buffalo Bills are the AFC Green Bay Packers because they play offense almost identical. They're starting to revolve their offense around the tight end, and the wide receivers are just depending on how the game is going, are almost an afterthought. It's like, oh, you're open? Here you go. You're open? Here you go. Oh, you're not open? Nah, we're going to snuff you out for about a third quarter. So, yeah, I'd rather just depend on the tight end in that offense, just like the Packers.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree. They're the one who's going to see the most volume. I do want to, before we move on to tight ends, I want to get to this question in the chat here. Is from James Coffey on YouTube. In a start 1 QB full PPR league, Evan, your bread and butter, your favorite here, if you had quarterback Josh Allen, would you trade away your second QB, who is Jalen Hurts, and Drake London for Malik Neighbors and Quinshon Judkins if they're weak at running back?
So, James, I think you can do better in exchange for Jalen Hurts and Drake London. I mean, I know what you're going for here because you don't need a second quarterback. You've already got Josh Allen. I don't know how you ended up with Jalen Hurts in the first place, but I can see why that you want to offer up Drake London just because he's been underwhelming with how much that Falcons offense struggled until they had to bring in Kirk Cousins because Penix was just so bad. That being said, I can see why you're going to buy low on a Malik Neighbors, but to buy low on a Quinshon Judkins ain't going to happen. He's clearly the best running back in that Cleveland Browns backfield. No thank you. If I'm the Neighbors and Judkins shareholder in a nutshell, I would turn you down for that offer. But if you really need to sell that second quarterback, I wouldn't try for a package deal because it could be a bit overwhelming in your typical redraft leagues. I would just see if you can trade Hurts to a quarterback needy team straight up for just a running back that you really, really want. So that's where I'd go if I were you.
The one thing I will say, if this manager on the other side of this is super quarterback needy and maybe wide receiver needy, and you can get this deal done, I would do it. I would 100% do it. You're getting so much back with Neighbors and Judkins, and you've already got Josh Allen. Neighbors for London? Anybody? I mean, yes, I'll take that all freaking day. You are welcome, James. We are here to help. Make sure you like and subscribe. As always, we've got this one from Bryce Long. He wants to know, trade Jaunty, Ricky, and JCM for Bucky and Lad McConkey. I wouldn't move Jaunty for that. And the other two parts are kind of whatever for me. I wouldn't move just Ashton Jaunty for Bucky Irving and Lad McConkey. So no.
I'm not sure what you're going for here. I by the way, thank you for tuning in while your Ravens are playing. It's greatly appreciated. But
Yes.
I'm not clear on what exactly you're trying to accomplish with this particular trade. Because Ashton Jonty is a rookie who needs some time to get used to this terrible offensive line and playing in the NFL. I expect Jonty to get better as the season goes on. I wouldn't panic sell him at this time. I'm guessing you mean Ricky Pearsall along with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I don't know what value you think you're going to get for either of those guys because Ricky Pearsall doesn't see enough consistent work, and JCM is in a running back by committee. So if I were the Bucky Irving and Ladd McConkey shareholder, I would not take this.
Nope. No. So I think we're in agreement here. There's no way we're taking that, Bryce. Hope that helped. Other manager is 0-3 and quarterback needy. So James, I think you can get that deal done. You should be able to get that deal done. Let us know in the comments afterwards. Post-show, please let us know. Or head on over to our Discord channel. You can find the link in the comments and let us know over there as well. We would love to hear how that all worked out.
Same, James.
Evan, yep. Now, Evan, let's move on to tight ends, and we'll get the good people on their way back to Monday Night Football and to those waiver claims here. The first one, the one we have to talk about the most, Hunter freaking Henry. I was an advocate of Hunter Henry heading into the season. It's one of those situations where he just felt like he was going to be the wide receiver 2 on this team. Drake May loved him at the end of last season. And what we've gotten out of him so far, 13 catches on 22 targets, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's tight end 3 right now. And somehow criminally under rostered, which I don't really understand. 40% on Sleeper, 48.9 on ESPN. If you need a tight end, if you don't have one of the top 3 guys right now, we're talking Brock Bowers, Trey McBride. If you don't have one of the top 2 guys right now, you need to go out and make a claim on Hunter Henry.
Yeah, 100%. Like, even if you already have a good tight end on your team, Hunter Henry is still a great flex for this Patriots offense in a lot of weeks because Stephon Diggs is not playing that well. Pop Douglas is not even offering much. Kayshon Boutte is not even going to be offering much. So this is not a set of wide receivers that I'm just dying to depend on for the New England Patriots. The reason Hunter Henry is criminally under-rostered right now is because he has not seen a top 10 tight end season since his 2021 debut on the New England Patriots. He's been a top 20 tight end. Now, that being said, Hunter Henry is really clicking with Drake May, and at this point, this is not something that I'm just dying to empty my fab for, but 8 for 11 and 2 touchdowns, somebody is probably going to overpay for Hunter Henry. They're going to be sorry that they spent all that fab on Hunter Henry because a regular game for him would be the 80 to 90% of the snaps he usually gets, but I would not count on him to catch more than 4 to 6 passes per game, and if he falls in the end zone, you're thrilled, but he's tight end 2 value for the rest of the season. I don't want to spend more than about 12% of my fab, and that's being generous, considering that Hunter Henry's not going to see this work every single week. I'm a wrestling fan, so I love calling him Hunter Hearst Henry, Triple H.
I think this is where we disagree, and this is going to be the first one tonight where I really disagree. If you are looking at a player for a tight end slot or even a flex slot, I think we're going to consistently see him in that 8 to 10 target, 6 to 8 to 10 target category because this offense needs him to be that player. 8 targets, 3 targets last week against Miami. They didn't need him to be that guy, but 11 targets against Pittsburgh. We might see a down week against Carolina where they just simply don't need him to be that guy. But then they've got Buffalo the week after, and that's going to be a game where I think he's good for 8 to 10 to 12 targets. And even the weeks where I think he's going to see lesser volume, I'm still willing to start him because we know some of that's going to be red zone targets. And if he only has 3 catches, one of those might and more than likely will be a touchdown in weeks like that. So
let me say one more thing about Hunter Henry as well. He has a juicy matchup against the Carolina Panthers in week 4. So if you can get him on your team, this is the week to add him, even if you have to blow quite a bit of fab to do it if you really, really need a tight end. And then after that, he's going to be playing the Buffalo Bills, New Orleans Saints, and Tennessee Titans, then the Cleveland Browns and the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be not the easiest for Hunter Henry after the Panthers. I think he'll be fine against the Saints and possibly the Titans too, but I think the defenses that he has to face rest of season are going to be a bit trickier for Hunter Henry. So if you can sell him high after week 4 in the Panthers game, I would do it. You are on mute again, my man.
I didn't even remember hitting the button. Yeah, focused on looking up Hunter Henry here. Actually, what I was looking up was another tight end on this list. I am all in on Hunter Henry. I think we both agree he's a good ad this week at tight end. Adam Troutman, the next player on this list. I have a hard time with this. 1 target, 3 targets the last 2 weeks. He didn't see a target last week. I get the want to add a guy that Sean Payton loves, and we've seen him trending on Sleeper as an ad. I can't get on board with any Denver skill position players outside of Cortland Sutton, maybe Troy Franklin, but even I'm nervous about Troy Franklin now and J.K. Dobbins.
I still want to get Evan Ingram on my team as well when he comes back from injury, if you have an IR slot to hold him in, because I think he's at least good enough for tight end 2 value, which is worth a flex in some weeks, but it's not necessarily mandatory in this case. Like, you don't have to roster him. Adam Troutman happened to be a trendy ad on Sleeper where he scored a touchdown in week 2 against the Colts, 3 catches for 10 yards. He happened to be a red zone target for Bo Nix, and then 37% of the snaps against the Chargers, and he didn't see 1 stinking target. So without Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman is not any more valuable, and you better not spend any fab on Troutman. Don't even bother adding him to your rosters. Just keep him on the waiver wire. If somebody else wants to add him, let them be suckers.
Now, the next one on this list, Cole Kmet, and I love Cole Kmet. I was a part of the Cole Kmet Club his rookie season. Shout out CKC. Miss all you guys. We added him to our group chat. He never commented. I don't know. We tried to show him the love. 1 catch, 1 target, 1 touchdown. Is he someone you actually think we should be adding in fantasy?
Right now, no. The Chicago Bears offense is still trying to find their identity in the Ben Johnson system. Not enough targets are going to the tight ends, unfortunately. They're still trying to figure that part out. They're going to the wide receivers, and some dump-offs are going to the running backs as well. But this is a wide receiver-heavy offense, and this is exactly the way Ben Johnson wanted it, even when he was the offensive coordinator for the Lions. So, that being said, the wide receivers are going to be the strongest part of the Chicago Bears. God, I never thought I'd say that in a million years, knowing the history of my team. Now, anyway, so back to Cole Kmet. He happened to get a back of the end zone wide open look from Caleb Williams, and it was a beautiful catch that the Cowboys just forgot to cover Cole Kmet, thinking they forgot he had great hands. I don't really see the tight ends getting much more value in the Chicago Bears offense. Colston Loveland is also not ruled out for week 4 at this time. He had to leave the game against the Cowboys due to a hip injury. He only saw 10% of the snaps. I do not think that Loveland is going to be missing time right now. And if he plays in week 4 against the Raiders, he could be on a reduced snap count just so that they don't get him more hurt. So, no, Cole Kmet is not a must-add anymore, and that hurts my feelings to say, so just leave him on the waivers.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a 90+% snap share throughout the season so far through 3 games, 7 targets. It's not enough. The touchdown was cool, though. Yay. Love to see it. If you had him in best ball, you definitely love to see it. Now, last tight end on this list, Evan, Brenton Strange over in Jacksonville. We're excited about him preseason. He's been decent. Tight end 13 still. He's rostered about a third of leagues on Sleeper, right around the same on ESPN. Last week against Houston, 6 catches on 7 targets. He still doesn't have a touchdown. Is he worth an ad? Do you see this volume continuing? Is he someone you want to plug in as a flex or a tight end most weeks in this offense?
When Trevor Lawrence is the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Brenton Strange will have some low-end tight end 2 value on a consistent basis. So yes, he will get consistent volume, but it's not going to lead to fantasy production that's going to win you any weeks. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a terrible offense. They're still trying to figure things out with Liam Cohen. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be bad forever, but I think they're going to consider drafting a new quarterback to replace Lawrence if he can't pick it up, because unfortunately, Trevor Lawrence, I love me some T-Law, but he is not living up to his first overall hype. The poor guy is just not getting the offensive line he deserves, and he's not playing well enough to justify keeping him out there. Maybe Trevor Lawrence plays better on a different team, but I don't think we're going to see him for much longer as a Jacksonville Jaguar. And that being said, I think Brenton Strange is one of his favorite targets when he needs a safety blanket, and he's a fine add if you're okay with tight end 2 value.
I mean, at this point on the waiver wire, you kind of have to be. That's mostly what's going to be available. Shout out Trevor Lawrence going to the New York Jets next. That's going to be a fun experiment. I can't wait.
Well, they don't have the offensive line to support him either.
Well, look, you're going to have one of the best. I think Trevor Lawrence is overrated. You're going to need one of the best offensive lines in the league to make him look good. Give him 30 seconds to throw. He'll figure it out then. But all jokes aside, guys, if you're going to add a kicker this week, let it be Spencer Schrader over in Indy. This kid has been off the chain. Plus, this is an offense that's scoring. He is kicker 1. But if there's one other consideration, may I give you Will Reichard over in Minnesota, that big, sexy leg, four kicks of 50-plus yards, plus the 62-yarder he hit at the end of the half last week. Those are kickers I would consider adding. Didn't feel like making a graphic for it because it's kickers. So there you go. Before we get out of here, Evan, we got a question in the chat from Nino Pena. He wants to know, big trade, send Neighbors, Trey Benson, Isaiah Pacheco for Jamar Chase, Trevion Henderson, and Brian Robinson. I'm the CMC owner, so I'll get the handcuff. So he is sending Malik Neighbors, Trey Benson, and Isaiah Pacheco for Jamar Chase, Trevion Henderson, and Brian Robinson. I'm going to say my initial reaction to this is I would not make this deal on either side. Would you?
No, I don't think a blockbuster trade like this after week 3 is necessary in almost every single circumstance, because September football is too early to tell how the NFL and all the teams are going to be rest of season. This is a time where teams are trying to figure out how they're going to be in this season, and that also affects fantasy football in production, where Jamar Chase might be struggling right now trying to get targets from Jake Browning, but they're gonna figure it out in October, and I don't think this is going to be a drought forever and ever. Now, Nino, I don't know if this is an offer on the table waiting for you to accept, or if this is something that you're considering sending. If it's the latter, if you're considering sending this deal, I would not do this. I would say, don't bother trying this offer without talking to the shareholder for the players that you're trying to get, which I'm guessing is Jabbar, Trevion Henderson, and Brian Robinson. You don't need to roster handcuffs in shallow leagues either. There's no reason to bet on CMC getting injured at this time. You don't need to you don't need to roster Brian Robinson in shallow regular redraft leagues. So no, if this is an offer that you're considering sending, don't do it.
Yeah, if Brian Robinson was seeing more volume, I might consider it, but 9 carries, 6 carries, 2 carries. He's got a total of 3 targets. This isn't like a 1A or a running back B+ situation at all. He's very much a change of pace guy until or if CMC gets hurt. And like you said, it's way too early in the season to be banking on that. If you're worried about Malik Neighbors, don't be. They're going to start Jackson Dart next week, and this is going to get fun for everybody.
Are they really going to start Jackson Dart? I want to see Famous Jameis, because I'm worried the Giants are going to ruin Jackson Dart.
I don't think you can ruin Jackson Dart.
Well, I hope you're right.
I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. I don't think they'll ruin him. I think it's going to be fun. I think that we're going to have some life in that New York offense for the first time in a handful of years, and I think it's going to be good. But maybe not.
I'm not sure what they were thinking rolling Russell Wilson out there, a guy who holds onto the football too long, takes too many sacks. You know your offensive line is ass, so why would you roll Russell Wilson out there for him to just take 9 sacks a game?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer to that question, but if you head on over to our Discord server, someone there might have an answer for you. Please make sure you check it out. It is run by the one and only Lou Brunson. You may have seen him, heard him in this chat here. Waiver wire advice, dynasty discussions, best NFL bets, DFS advice, and just a ton more. It's a football community for football people because we love talking football. And after you go over there, guys, head on over to tools.optimusfantasy.com. Greenlight your lineups with our data tools. 35% off the first 3 months with the code BIPOCALYPSE. Get those lineups and those rosters set before the buys set in, because it gets ugly. And I think it's week 7 where we have the largest amount of teams on bye. and it's going to be brutal. But our data tools can help. Promo code BIPOCALYPSE, tools.optimusfantasy.com. We would love to have you there. We've got James Coffey. Like the show and subscribed. Great show. Hopefully my trade offer for Neighbors and Judkins works out. Like we said, please let us know how it goes. Drop a comment in the show later. Head on over to Discord and let us know either way. Evan, it's been a blast, man. Got through week 4 waivers. If you guys have more questions, again, head on over to Discord. The link is in the show description. We're going to let you get back to your Monday Night Football. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel to help you with your week 5 waiver wire decisions. But until then, I'm Nate Paulvote for Evan Sather. Good luck and good night, people. We will see you later on.